Welcome, everyone. Welcome to episode number 19 of our What's with Health and Care podcast. Today, I have Sue with me. Hi, Sue.
Hello.
And we have a special guest, our very first special guest, Nadine Crawford. Now, Nadine is a nurse and she's also a health and wellness coach, and she's based in Victoria. And today we're going to have a discussion about things that distract us, and particularly phones. So I think everyone can relate to the idea of how they can be taking our attention away or not being engaged in conversation and stuff. So we're going to explore that topic today. So welcome, Nadine. Great to have you with us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's our pleasure.
And tell us a bit about yourself, Nadine, because people who listen to us regularly don't know you. So tell them a bit about you.
Yeah, well, hi, everyone. My name is Nadine, and I live in Victoria. I live on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula, actually, down in a little place called Rosebud, which I love. My background's in nursing. I spent 15 years working as a nurse in all different areas: general, medical, surgical, a bit of ED, a bit of ICU, but my main passion was nursing education. So I spent a lot of time working with up-and-coming nurses, teaching them in the classroom, teaching them in the simulated labs, teaching them in the clinical environment when they came out on their placements, and just absolutely loved being that mentor and role model to them, and just teaching them how to be really good nurses, how to really critical think, how to look at their patient and not their computer, how to communicate, and just how to be really empathetic, and just lovely nurses who do a great job. And just had an absolute ball doing that. I guess probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to get a little bit disillusioned because I felt like healthcare was changing. Students were coming out, a lot of them, not all of them, they were always beautiful students, but some were coming out a little bit entitled, and was making it quite difficult to do the job, that we were there to do. The system itself had changed. And I was just looking, and I had changed as well. And I was, living a much more healthy, fit life, and was really looking for a way to be more proactive in the way that I worked rather than reactive, which is what we sort of are in healthcare, really. So that's how I came to health and wellness coaching. So I limped through the pandemic working in infection control, which was a crazy thing to work at through a pandemic in Victoria. But I survived, just clawing on to my last inch of sanity. And have come out the other side as a health and wellness coach, and I'm absolutely loving my work in that space. I'm working with people, mostly women, helping them to create balance, feel energized and maximize their life. And I'm also doing some work in the NDIS space, helping people with a bit of fitness, a bit of positive psychology. We're doing some wellness walks with some meditation and a bit of coaching through that, and absolutely just loving exploring that opportunity as well. So that's a bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you.
And also, just so you all know, I'm a huge parkrun nut. If you don't know what parkrun is, you've got to get on it because it's really good for your health and wellness. So it's a 5-kilometre community event every Saturday all around the world. Register once, turn up, and you can run, walk, jog, volunteer at a 5K event and meet the people in your local community and have a wonderful time. So that's me.
Awesome. I keep saying I'm going to check that park run out, and I just haven't got around to it.
Sue, you haven't done one for a while, so you got to get back there.
I know. I've been a bit slack. I need to get back into it. I guess, why do we love about our phones? Because they do offer us some good things. That's why everybody has one. The amount, when you look at the data on who has them, there's some incredible, there is about 96% of populations in Australia have mobile phones now.
Yeah.
And most of them are smartphones. So they're not just for picking up and talking to someone, they're doing other things. So, and they do the things, they offer good things like keeping us connected with families, allow us to work wherever we want, entertain us. That's a big thing, I think. Connecting us to knowledge easily. So, back in the day, there used to be a lot of dad facts and mum facts because they'd just tell you something and you'd assume that was true.
Yeah,
whereas
or you'd be at a dinner party and there'd be a question about, what year something happened or who sang what song, and everyone would just debate it. But now we just pick up our phone and look it up.
It's the first who can Google the answer.
Yeah.
It's the first person who's got the quickest thumb to Google the answer now, really, anyway. So, yes.
Or we just ask Siri as well. That's the other thing.
We don't even use our thumbs anymore. Oh my gosh, Lordy, we're moving even less. And also because we can do our banking, we can actually pretty much do a lot of our life on these things. So that's why they are so good. But the problem is they end up distracting us because, they do offer us a lot and we get absorbed by them, don't we? They do take a lot of our time, and we notice them a lot because we have them in our hand and we're walking around everywhere all the time. So what's the distraction, guys?
Yeah, it's really an interesting thing. I mean, when I think about social media, I remember when I got my first mobile phone, I gave it away because I didn't know what to do with it. And what if I got this thing for? I just gave it away to my brother-in-law because I didn't want it. And now, of course, we can't do without our mobile phones. And, as you said, we need them for work and all the work for safety. We need them for safety because we could never be safe without one now. But they really do rob us of our concentration. And I think what's happened is these apps and the things that are on our phones, they actually are really designed to do exactly that. They're designed to grab our attention and to keep it for as long as possible. And it really interferes with our concentration. But the thing is, it's been pitched that it's our willpower that we have to use our willpower to control how much we use it. But actually, there's an element of that, but actually they are 100% designed to grab our attention and keep it for as long as possible. The longer they have our attention, our eyeballs on our screens, the more money other people are making. You know that?
Yeah, I think it's, I wonder how many people are actually aware that every company that is trying to get that virtual presence employs psychologists to actually highlight the sounds that appeal to us, the colours that appeal to us. They're actually employing brain people because they want to engage us and get our attention as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And so when you've got 5 companies who are employing specialists to get our attention as much as possible, and you have at least 5 of these apps on your phone, can you see how they're getting a lot of your time now?
Yeah. And this
is being done to us. We need to be aware. Yeah.
There was an app that popped up recently, and it came up and said that this person was going to spend 22 years of their life on their phone at their current usage. So we are losing a lot of time. Cumulatively, that sounds horrific, but when you break it down, it's very easy to lose an hour, 2 hours a day. And I call it like going to the pantry when you're not hungry and there's nothing there, but you stand there and look in the pantry anyway. That's what it's like when we are on our phones all the time. Just the other day, I was on a train and I was looking around, and every single person was head down on their phone. And I get it. I'm guilty too. But, we used to have conversations on trains. We used to have conversations in restaurants. And now we can't have a moment where we're unentertained, where we're not being entertained or stimulated in some way.
Yeah, is really, that's a negative effect on our brain, because our brain isn't meant to have bites of activity all the time. It's not meant to be continually busy, because when you fill your head with stuff, where's the time to reflect and think and check in with yourself? Yes, be creative.
Yeah.
Where are we finding time for that?
Yeah.
So why are we doing this? Why are we always on our phones? I don't know. Why? Is it because we're tired and we're not noticing? What's going on for us?
I think there's part of that, but I think it's so complicated. And yes, it is designed to grab our attention, but once we're on it, the next thing we do is we compare. So we see what everyone else is doing. We see the curated version of their life. We see the highlights reel of other people's lives. And then we get that sense of, oh, am I doing enough? Have I got enough? Should I be doing more?
FOMO.
What I'm doing today is not as exciting as what that person's doing today. And we might not even be having these conscious thoughts, but our brains are designed to be constantly, seeing where we're at in the pecking order of life. And so when we're on social media, we're doing that. We're engaged in all those things, even if it's our emails, for instance.
Yes.
That means that we're constantly thinking about work and we're not giving our brain a chance to unwind and relax and file away. I call it the filing system, where if I'm going for a walk and I'm just thinking about things and I'm not listening to anything, I'm just walking, my brain's got that chance to just kind of go, oh, what do I think about this? And I'm going to chuck that out. I'm going to keep that. That sounds good. And I like that. No, that can go. And I might just park that for later and I'll think about that and something. If I'm not having time where I'm not constantly stimulated, I'm not getting that time. Our concentration spans are really short now. The blocks of focused work that we can do are really short, because we can only handle things in bite-sized pieces, because that's what we've been fed. And in fact, a lot of the social media stuff, there's a real science in getting people to engage with your content by making sure that it's snappy and gets their attention. And if it's a page long, people aren't going to read it. So,
you've got to do those clickbait bites and, and that's how they, you've got your marketers and everybody out there who's going, who will help you design it that way.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I don't want to buy into this world. I want to engage with people more authentically, but you're almost a dinosaur if you're thinking like that, really.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, it's been pitched that we need to use willpower to control ourselves, but actually we're being fully manipulated, and it's causing us to lose our concentration. It's causing us to live in a world of comparison that's unhealthy. And that, I don't know about you, but I know if I find myself on my phone too much, all of a sudden I start feeling very anxious, and I think, what is going on? And then I realize, put the phone down, Nadine. I'm feeling anxious. And the most sad thing is that it's robbing us of our connection and our presence. So the people that we're with here today, that are in the room with us, our family, our loved ones, we're not engaging with them because our phone is more important.
And it keeps beeping at us and telling us that we've got another Facebook message, or we've got another, Instagram message, or, someone's put up their Be Reel. I've got to check their Be Reel and see what they're doing, and you just...
Exactly.
It's crazy because there's constantly these alarms going off telling you that someone else has done something that could possibly be more exciting than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And I think we're losing the joy of the simple things in life because we're always comparing ourselves to something that someone else is doing.
That's an ideal too. Might not necessarily be the whole picture. Like there's other stuff going on in the background as well, but we don't get that. It's sanitized.
I mean, I love the fun stuff. I love the big travel, and I love the big event and the thing that, you just have an amazing day. But what I really love is sitting at my kitchen and having all my friends around the table and just, enjoying that time with like-minded people that I've chosen, That's what the simple things that really bring me joy. Going for a walk and with my husband and getting a coffee, those simple things, those simple pleasures, and my phone does not enhance those things.
No.
But I'll be honest, I still have to fight with myself about it. So,
Do you notice how the time passes differently, Nadine, when you're engaged in those, when you're present? Like, is there a difference between how time goes when you're there and when you're scrolling?
Oh, absolutely. When you're scrolling, time seems to just pass, doesn't it? But you've achieved nothing.
Yeah.
You haven't enhanced your life or your mind or anything. I think but when you're with people, it passes in such a positive way. I think it's not so much in how the time passes, it's how you walk out of those moments, how you feel when you exit those moments, whether you feel uplifted and alive or whether you feel I'm kind of dead inside because, I've achieved nothing. And I think we've just fallen for that trap that every time we have an emotion that we're uncomfortable with, we reach for our phone so that we can block it out, or we look for the answer. We look for whatever answer, we look for it on our phone. And a lot of the time we need to do that work within ourselves. You know, we need to sit in the uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. But that numbing self-soothing that we're scrolling with, because we're numbing ourselves and self-soothing ourselves, that does require us to look inwardly, and potentially that then requires something to be different. And that is really hard, because to change and be uncomfortable, Nadine, is not what we do as well anymore, because you know, we can grasp things that are easy. We can grasp things that are tangible in front of us. So to be uncomfortable is not easy.
It's not easy, you're right. And I think it comes down to an even bigger question, and that is, what do I want my life to actually look and feel like? Because if we don't have a big picture for our life, then we're just going to get lost in the moments that come along, and then we'll get 5-10 years down the track and we'll realize that we've wasted all this time. So I think it's winding it back and saying, what do I really want out of life? What do I want my days and my years and my weeks to look and feel like? And then making decisions and taking action to lead us to that. Because because if we don't have that big picture, we're just going to waste time.
Well,
but because that is a challenging question for a lot of people.
Exactly, because people are, you know, I know with my clients, because in my one-to-one coaching, particularly I'm working on with clients is their vision of self, and, you know, what do they want them, what does future version 2.0 of them look like? And even that can really take some time to pull apart and unpack for people as they take themselves on that adventure of, well, what are my values, what are my strengths, what are those things that are me that I want to hold on to, and what are the things I want to discard and let go. And it is such a big piece of work. And I think that's why all of us as coaches love it so much, because we see people who invest in self who then go on this transformational change. Absolutely. You know, like I've got clients who, you know, start out who are really, they're psychologically a little bit broken, you know, they're in that stuck phase, and then they navigate through it and they work really hard, and they do everything on their terms because it's their life, their choice. And then they come out and they're different. They are different. They've sometimes got different jobs. Sometimes they're, you know, I think that's the beautiful sort of thing we get to evidence. So we know it's so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing is, you know, we've had to do that work for ourselves first. Otherwise we can't do it with other people. But yeah, definitely I hear you, Sue, and you probably as well, Celeste, is the clients that we work with, and I've had this experience as well, is clients will come to me and they'll say, and I'm just scrolling on my phone. I'm just, you know, I finish work and then I can't switch off and I just scroll. And then before I know it, I've wasted all this time, but my plan was to go for a walk or to do this or to do that. And so to really break that down, and well, why can't you switch off, and what do you want your days to look like, and really move them forward from that place so that they can have some, you know, live life on their terms and really feel the best of it, feel that energy and feel like they're, you know, they've got the balance and feel like they're really living the life they want and that it's not living them. You know?
Exactly. So
no one's going to lie on their deathbed and say, oh, geez, I wish I'd scrolled a bit more.
I wish I'd invested more time in people's B-reels. That would have been excellent. Now, but what strategies do you use? And I guess that's where we want to go to Celeste. You know, I want to hear what Celeste and Nadine, I want to hear what you're both suggesting when you're working with clients, the strategies that you use to, how can we get off our phones? What are some, you know, I know we don't offer advice unless asked, because that's the role of a coach. We don't say, now, have you tried this? Have you tried that? We let people find their own solutions first. But when they get stuck and they can't think of any, they allow us to give advice. So what's some advice that we offer on that point?
Celeste?
What do you offer?
Well, for me, it's like, what could you replace that? How could you disrupt that habit? Like, walk me through the steps to getting to scrolling. So it's like, I come home, I'm buggered, and I sit in that recliner and I think I'm just going to sit for 10 minutes, and then I pull my phone out and next thing 2 hours has gone past.
Okay.
And so I said,
Yeah.
So they found a way. So how they disrupted it was not sitting in the recliner when they came home. They're still buggered. They're still wanting to pull their phone out, but then they'd put the phone down on a counter in that same room as the recliner, but they can come back to the kitchen and sit in a chair and have a cup of tea and sort of take some time to think. And then the next piece was like, they just suddenly noticed, this one particular client said, oh, like there's so much time. And now I think I've got all this time. What else could I do? There's just so many other things I'd rather do.
So you got them to focus. Yeah, you got them to focus on how much time they did have without the phone. So look at the positive, I guess, is what you were doing there, wasn't it?
Yes, and how to disrupt the habit, like pulling it apart a bit, taking a few steps back to see where does it start and how can you disrupt that.
Yeah, good. That's really good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What about you, Nadine? What do you try to sort of do for strategies?
Yeah, so similar to Celeste with clients, but there's so many little practical things people can do to help facilitate less time on the phone or less time on social media. So the first one is turn all your notifications off. You don't need to be pinged every time someone likes a post or a photo that you posted last week. You know, that's not going to enhance anyone's life. Turn them off. They're there to distract you. That is their sole purpose. So that's one. Another one is that I've just come across recently, I'm having a bit of fun with, is you can actually put your phone into grayscale mode. Basically what that does is it makes your phone black and white. Yeah. And the science behind that is that the colour creates dopamine hit in your brain. So if you turn it on to black and white or grayscale, instantly you will not be getting that dopamine hit when you pick up your phone. So it's a way of tricking your brain chemistry. And it clever. Actually works. The moment I put my phone on grayscale, I started picking it up less. A really, really, really important one is don't have your phone in your bedroom when you sleep. Put it outside your bedroom. Nothing is that important. And people will say, oh, but what if something happens? Have a think back over the last 10 years, how many times something so urgent has happened that you needed to know in the middle of the night. Probably not that many. But also have a think about how many nights you have let that phone distract you by picking it up, scrolling. So it's just that simple thing where you can take control and put it outside your room, sleep better and not be distracted through the night or early in the morning if someone sends you a ping. So that's another thing you can do. Again, it comes down to what clients what works for them. So I know when I first started exploring this, I was chatting with people and they were like, just, set aside a time when you check your emails. But that didn't really work for me. That wasn't what worked for me. So what worked for me was I would say to myself, just put the damn phone down, Nadine. And I would create a space in my day where I would just put the phone down. So another thing you can do is experiment with going out without it. So it might just be walking to the post box initially without your phone. See how that feels. And it'll probably feel quite awkward. And then now I'll go to the gym without it, or I'll go out for a coffee without it. So, finding, do I really need my phone on this outing? Yes or no? Be honest. How long am I going for? Can I leave it at home? Once you get used to it, you'll feel so much freedom by just leaving it at home occasionally. So there are a few things that come to mind quickly, but again, it really has to be something that works for the individual. Another thing that's really great is to put the blue light on. So on your phone, there's a setting where you can turn the backlight to the blue light, which is better for sleep, and you can do it for a certain time. So like I've got mine set from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something like that. So if I am on my phone, I try not to be, but if I am on my phone, it's not going to disrupt my sleep because I've got that blue light filter on. So there's a few things where, the phone is there for you to, as a tool, but like any tool, we have to use it to its best skill, to our benefit and not to our detriment. So there's just a few little things that that we've come across that help.
Yeah. And there is using that sort of method of that digital detox. Like, some people talk about having a Sabbath day, a day where they completely don't touch electronics because they're trying to just get back to themselves and have a day off to learn themselves and just touch in with who they are and who their family are. So they have those sorts of things. So there is so many solutions out there. But as Nadine highlighted in there is what fits you. So, I know for me, I do have my phone next to me every night when I go to sleep, but I've enabled lots of the clock activities in my phone. So my phone goes to sleep at 9 p.m. every night and doesn't wake up to 7 a.m. So if anybody sends me a message or anything like that, I'm not going to reply back and I'm not going to be aware because it goes into sleep mode and doesn't send me anything during that period. But then if my family, because I've got a really sick father and if he does need care in the middle of the night where something happens and goes wrong, there is you can set emergency phone calls to come through. So the only people I know who will be ringing me is either my mum or my daughter, because sometimes she does close shifts at work and doesn't travel home till 1, 2 in the morning. So and one day she hopped into her car at midnight and had a flat battery. So she had to ring me. So basically I know there's 2 people who are going to be calling me. So when my phone rings, I know who it is. So and therefore I do care for them. So I don't care.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's where you said it's really got to fit you.
Absolutely.
But the great thing is there are so many hidden facets in our phone that actually can help us. We just haven't figured them out yet. Like, what you were saying with the blue light and and the grayscaling and all those things. They're in there. We just haven't found them yet.
Absolutely. What little tricks do you use, Celeste?
Look, I have very similar features on my phone to what Sue's describing. My phone goes to sleep about 8 o'clock at night and doesn't wake up until because I have my alarm on it, so it's whatever time in the morning. But I won't get calls except for family because just to have that fail safe there. And I think they need to call twice before it'll pick up. So if it's a pocket call, then I won't get woken up the first time.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, that's really handy.
I think really importantly too is when we're spending time with the people that we love, it's really worth thinking about our phone behaviour around that. Yeah. So if we're having a conversation with our spouse or our children, or we're out to a meal or something like that, where do you want your phone to be? Who do you want to have your attention? Do you want to be there or do you want to be half present? So I just know that physically for me, if the phone is with me, I'm half present. So for me, it's actually physically removing it, having it in my bag under the table, leaving it in the car, doing something so that it's physically not
out of sight.
Yeah. Because people know if you're not paying attention. People know if you're not present with them. Yeah.
And it's like whatever's on this phone is more important than you are, is the message that we're sending invariably.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that is the psychology out there. It's if you are sort of sitting at a dinner table with people and there are people on their phone, it's like, well, just leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If something's more important, can you just go? Because I'd rather you just go than sit there and give me half your time.
Yes. I don't want the crumbs.
Exactly. I've set aside this time for you. I've made this time. So, honour that, honour people's time. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think when we do sort of have that rule where we're coming together today to have dinner or play a game or, do something, then, the phones aren't with us while we're doing that.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's like a little conversation that we could have with the family or the friends or whoever we're with to say, look, what do you think about phones? Like I find it really distracting. Do you think we could put them away just for the next half an hour or I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Because I don't want you to feel I don't want to be distracted. I don't want you feeling that I'm not really here with you. So, have a conversation like that perhaps.
Well, I think, there is those places too, the restaurants where they have the phone bowl in the middle of the table. Yes. So that bowl in the middle of the table isn't for washing your hands. It's for everyone to put their phones into so that during dinner nobody's touching their phones because they're all in the bowl.
I remember I took my nephews out a couple of years ago now, and we went bowling, and I just took all the phones and piled them up. And so they were just all face down in a pile, mine included, so that we could all be present and have fun together.
And not taking bloody photos of ourselves all the time either. Stop it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really taking up the moment or absorbing the moment when you're having to think about taking photos. It's a bit of a catch-22, that one, because later on I think, oh, I wish I had a photo of that.
Yeah,
but then
it is true. It is a
kind of got
balance,
it in my
isn't
head.
Yeah. And if I see other people taking photos, then I won't. I'll put my phone away and go, good, someone else is taking photos. So I can just enjoy the day.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Good.
It's interesting. We were at the Great Ocean Road a year or two ago, and it was amazing. It was like ants on an ant nest at the 11 and a half apostles, or at the 12 apostles, and like so many people taking photos. And it was in COVID, so there wasn't as many tourists as there normally would be, but there were so many people taking photos and selfies, but they weren't actually looking at what was out there. It was quite interesting, and I ended up taking photos of all the people taking photos because it really fascinated me. Just that lack of
exactly.
I did a little experiment over the Christmas holidays, and I put it on my YouTube channel actually. But one of my experiments was around my phone use, and so one thing was to not take the phone to the toilet. Because let's face it, so many people take their phone to the toilet and will scroll or, send messages from the toilet. Can we just do our business without the phone? So that was one experiment, was not to take my phone to the toilet. One was to have 1 hour a day without my phone. And the other one was to not walk while I'm on my phone. You know how we're like, when we're walking along and we look at our phone or we get a message. So they were my 3 experiments, and they were just 3 little things, and I still try and do them, but I do find that those habits creep in if I'm not careful. So just little things like that. And now I've added in going out without it, adding the grayscale, putting on the blue light filter. Yep. So it's just a reminder that these habits that we've formed have been formed by design of the very clever companies who want our attention all the time. So, there's no point beating ourselves up about it.
Oh, no. And I think realising and creating that awareness and knowing that, there is some really good authors out there and researchers who have actually written on this topic. And, at this end of this podcast, we'll actually put a page up where you can get some links and really read some good material around stolen focus. So this is something that is happening to us, but we're letting it happen, and we're allowing it to happen because we're not being aware enough.
Exactly. Awareness really is the key in any of the habits we want to change, but definitely with our social media and our phone usage, awareness is the key. So even just those, I think what I love about being more aware of my consumption is the random interactions that I have with people that I wouldn't have otherwise. And they bring me so much joy when I look around and I walk around and I'm sitting in a cafe and the person next door will talk to me because I'm not on my phone. So those types of things are really life-enriching moments that we used to have regularly, but now they're notable because they don't happen very often because we've got our phones in front of our eyeballs all the time. So it's just something to be aware of, and it's something to experiment with. Not everything's going to work, but be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself when you when something's not working. Why isn't it working? Really try and tap into that emotion. And
that tapping into the emotion is the important part. It's because often I can get more anxiety from interacting with my phone. So, if I am feeling more anxious, is it because I am doing more comparison of myself with the people, the curated images that are happening on people's pages, because I'm going, oh, well, look at all they have and I don't have that. And oh my God, now I'm anxious.
And it might
So,
not even be conscious that we're having those
oh,
thoughts. But
Yes.
more importantly, we're not connecting with the environment we're
yep.
in, with the nature and the trees and the
Oh,
people and everything that's surrounding us. We're part of that. And by being on our phone, we're taking ourselves away from that. We're not getting the benefit of that connection to our environment and the people around us. So,
and not spending enough time with ourselves and actually realizing, we're okay. We're doing
yeah.
really well, actually,
Yes.
and we've got some good stuff in our lives,
Yeah. And actually just to take that space to deal with things. I was listening to a different podcast the other day, and they were talking about all this stuff, and they were talking about making the space to just do one thing at a time. So if they go for a walk, they don't listen to a podcast or anything like that. They just walk, and it gives them a chance to deal with their emotions and actually Celeste, you said this before, allow creativity to come back in. Because when we're constantly filling up our brains, we're not letting our brains do any work. So let your brain do the work. Let your brain sit with a bit of uncomfortable. That's where growth happens. That's where maturity and personal growth happens, is to sit with the uncomfortable and deal with that feeling, figure out where it's coming from and how to move forward with it. But then also, when you put your phone down and just do one thing at a time, you'll notice more creativity coming back into your world and back into your brain. And it's really exciting. It's really fun to think, I just told a really funny joke, and maybe you wouldn't have done that if you were on your phone, or maybe you had a brilliant idea, or, you got clarity about something. We're not going to get that when we're constantly attached to our phones. So, really encourage people to take the time to have those experiments and see what works for them, see what space they can create.
So, Celeste, a last tip from you before we pack up for the day?
The last tip I just would like to share is that when we get off our phones and we talk to someone or we reflect ourselves, it's not just what's in our head and the stories that we're inferring, or the thoughts that we keep dwelling on and creating a story with. That might be something that makes us anxious. It might be something that makes us feel like we're missing out on something or that we're falling short. And nothing is checking that thinking if we're in our heads. So it just runs rampant. But if we can gain awareness and we notice it, then we can question it. Or if we're talking with someone actually, in a conversation, then they might check us, and say, is that really true? Do you really? Yeah, okay, that's interesting. What's another way you might look at that? Because that's not what I'm seeing. And it just can pull us up so that we don't keep going in that same path that we can when we're trapped in our heads or when we're on our phones a lot.
That's really great. Yeah.
And Nadine, last tip for everyone out there before we pack it up?
Just be kind to yourself. Just take some experiments, be kind to yourself, give it a go, reach out for help if you need it, but really notice the benefits of the small moments of success. When you do get success and you find that connection with someone, or you have a moment of awesome with someone that wouldn't have happened otherwise, celebrate those, but be kind to yourself, because we are being sold this, we are victims really of all the algorithms and everything. So be kind to yourself as you experiment with how you take some space around that.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's about that noticing. It's about knowing that I want this to be different and I'm going to take control of it, and I'm going to make it a little bit different, and I'm going to do it in small baby steps so I can get the incremental sort of results of doing little steps. So I get the compounded interest of the big investment later on, that I go, wow, I did that. Wow,
And it will be hard to start. That's the thing. It will be hard.
And as James Clear always puts it, get 1% better every day, because we can't do it all. We've got to do little baby steps. Well, thanks, everyone. That was awesome. And look, if you want to follow us and learn more about what we're talking about, join in, share. I'm going to put all the links on this podcast at the end today so that you can follow us on our Facebook site and our YouTube site and anywhere else we post. And if you want to contact each of us individually, because you might want some coaching, you actually might want to start that life plan. Woo. As you've seen in the podcast, all our contact details have been up throughout the whole thing. So if you want to get in contact, please do. Okay, thanks everyone. Anything else, Nadine and Celeste, before we wave off?
Nope,
No.
that's great. So you've wrapped it up.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.